Thank you so much for joining the Wild and Precious Life series. I mean, I say it every week, you're going to have a good time because you are. This is just what we do. We have fabulous poets and they read awesome poems and you enjoy yourself. I'm excited to introduce our first poet, and that's Grant Chemidlin. And Grant, for your introduction, I'm actually going to read a poem of yours that I really enjoyed when I was researching you. Cruising. Oh, 1 second. Let me let somebody in because I want them to hear the poem. Cruising. Two men meet in the middle of a secret, hide behind the bushes, the trees, who see no deviance, offer their trunks for cover. Two men meet in the middle of desire, slip out of their armor, bask in the unclad sun, in each other's arms, in each other's tongues. In the middle of a better world, two men undone, two men unbelievably soft when they touch. Even the stubble-studded chins are silken moss. A twig crack, a gruff shout in the distance, and two men disappear. All that's left, two hollowed logs, holding their breath on the forest floor. Thank you for being here tonight. The screen is yours.
Thank you so much. Okay. Can everyone see me? Thank you so much, Dustin, for reading that poem. I think you've read it better than I've ever read it before. That was an experience. Thank you. Thank you. Somebody, okay. Sorry, that just popped up on my screen. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Dustin, for that lovely introduction of the poem reading, and for inviting me to be a part of this incredible reading series. I'm truly so honored and grateful to be reading alongside such wonderful and talented poets tonight. So thank you. I do have a book out right now called What We Lost in the Swamp. This is the cover. If you enjoy what I read tonight, I hope you'll check it out. But I'm actually not going to read any poems from this book. I feel like as writers, we always have that urge to read what is fresh and new and exciting us in the moment. So that's what I'm going to do. I have a new book that I'm working on that's a form book, and it's comprised of two forms that I've invented. So I'm going to share with them to you tonight because I feel like the Zoom format allows me to show you them and let you see the structure and how they look on the page so you can kind of receive them better. So I'm going to try to share my screen. Let's see if this works. Yes. So the first form that I'm going to show you is, I call them confession or mirror poems. So as you can see, they're kind of skinny and long, short little lines going down the page. Here's another one. And if I zoom in, you can see that the punctuation is on the opposite side. And the reason that is because you can read these poems both left to right, top to bottom, and then right to left, top to bottom. So what I discovered about these poems is that you are really they really capture the queer experience because there end up being two competing voices or personas sharing a single space on the page. And so the left to right version, the quote unquote normal version, is the public facing persona, a persona that's maybe a little bit more dishonest, more seeking approval or wanting to be accepted. And then on the reflected mirror version is a voice that is more of the interior, the internal space, and it's more truthful, more forthcoming, more in touch with authentic emotions. And then the punctuation sort of acts as a guidepost for that opposite reading. So I'll keep this up for the first poem so you can see it as I read it, and then I'm going to stop sharing. But as I read these poems, I'm going to I'm going to read them the left to right version first, the normal version. I will pause and then I will read the right to left version. So this first one is called Confession Beer Bong. I was in high school cool because always drinking. Straight meant no chase, meant chugging. Myself being blackout, then them cheering. A blur became party animal. Me, loud music drowning out my conversation. Solo empty. I wasn't just somebody, a hero lying in yards, the sky spinning. They did see me. Was I high in school always because cool meant straight? Drinking meant chase, no being myself. Chugging them, then blackout, became blur, a cheering animal. Party music loud, me drowning my out conversation. Wasn't I empty, solo, just a body, some lying hero spinning sky? The yards in me, see, did they? So something I noticed about these poems was that there was a real shifting I, capital I, self within these poems, but then also a shifting, this motif of a shifting EYEI, this collective gaze. And so in that last poem, you sort of see a closeted speaker who either doesn't want to be seen at all or only wants to be seen in a very specific way and not another way. And in this next poem is a speaker who's come out recently and is starting to date openly and now has a new relationship with that shifted collective gaze, being openly gay and now having to feel it openly, the gaze. So this is called Confession Bolero. Toppling pins, coal kissing me, I am ready. Lights, camera, these are nights to remember, watching strangers laughing. Cole is drunk, reaching, eyes much too glazed for strikes. Me, overall, having fun. Why leave? Isn't this easy? Pins toppling me, kissing Cole, am I ready? Are these camera lights? Remember tonight's strangers watching, laughing, drunk. Is Cole reaching too much? Eyes glazed all over me. Strikes for having fun. Leave. Why isn't this easy? So this next poem, again, you see kind of another shifting I, EYE gaze, and that's sort of when you enter into the queer community, the speaker sort of is realizing that there is another gaze there as well, and that is, one that emphasizes beauty and youth and desire and body image. So I wanted to sort of engage with that part of the culture with this poem. So this is called Confession Adonis Complex. Check again. Abs are still there. I am healthy. The body, my in shape stomach. I, someone's lusting, love it. I take off my shirt. Imagine them foraging my skin. Think, don't I look good? Again, check. Am I there still? Are abs healthy? The shape in my body, someone's eye. Stomach it. Love lusting. Take eye off for them. Imagine shirt, my skin, my aging. I don't. Think good. Look. Confession 200 guests at our October wedding. Everyone here, rustling, then still air, changed leaves, my seeing finally clear. Moment open to sky, flitting bluebirds. These are good nerves. Me inside singing love. Shame is but a dream. We inseparable, standing by friends, family, roots sprouting. We are ground, our branched bodies natural. We're showing eyes fruit. Shake. I won't. Still, then rustling. Here, everyone finally seeing my leaves changed. Air clear, sky too open. Moment, are these birds blue flitting inside me nerves? Good love singing, but is shame inseparable? We dream a family, friends. By standing our ground, are we sprouting roots, showing we're natural? Bodies branched, fruit, eyes. Won't I shake? Confession, the class. When we are ready, we all take the class. Nothing but gay studies, how to be. We can ask our dying questions. Teachers help. Get our apples, we share. Always are ourselves, good this doing. When are we ready? All we take, nothing. Class, the studies. Gay, but how? To be questions dying. Our ask, can we get help? Teachers, apples, our share. We are always doing this good ourselves. So the last of the mirror/confession poems that I will read is a one that I wrote later on for this book that I'm working on. And I was reading about several books about the AIDS epidemic and the history there. And it's such a queer collection that I'm working on that I wanted to engage with it in some way. And I didn't really know how with these poems. And then I started having a conversation with my husband where we were we were just discussing like, where's that line, I guess, between, honoring someone or a time and then, exploiting or appropriating that grief and that pain. So after that conversation, the poem kind of took its own turn. So this is called Confession Legacy. History is dyed red. To color my story, I read, discover names, those loud, out, whole generation of wilting men. What suffering? I do know, understand, tried, I have, listening. Language, no, there is only blood, speaking. Stop, about them, hear yourself. History died. Is red my color too? Story I discover, read those names out loud. Generation, whole men wilting, of suffering, what do I know? Understand? Have I tried listening? No. Language is their only blood. Stop speaking about yourself. Hear them. So I'm going to read one last final poem. I think I have enough time. So I'm going to share my screen again. This is the second form in the book, and it's a series of 10 poems so far, and they're all titled Fag. And the rule of this form that I've come up with is I have to use the letters F, A, and G within the words and lines in order. And so I can't use a word like fight, for instance, because an A needs to fall between the F and the G. And when I'm finally done constructing the poem under all those constraints, then I erase the F's, the A's, and the G's, which kind of forces the reader in a fun way to spell the word fag over and over again and constantly engaging with it in order to unlock the poem's meaning, and also to the point where the word itself starts to lose meaning and its power. So this is titled Fag. Let's be frank. You thought we only fuck, that we never get deep, sit in the river's rush. We too fear the things we touch, try to hold, fold into our limbs, but cannot. Will it be too much? Will it dry up? We thought first to damn ourselves, but the thought, of course, was yours. The river, blue-green, forks. Anyhow, thank you so much.
Sorry for that. My computer froze at the. Thank you so much, Grant, for that. And I'm going to ask our next reader to unmute, and VanderHart. And from your introduction, I'm actually going to read the last paragraph of an essay that you published in the Boiler Journal titled Confederate Monument Removal. I encourage everyone to read this. I don't want to give away too much, but I related to a lot with the familial piece of having conversations on the topic, but I'm just going to read the closing part because it really struck me. In removing Confederate symbols from our schools, from our holidays, from our streets, we reshape the space of ours days, the meaning of our time. We work towards reparation, or not even reparation, but the clearing work that must be done before the building can begin. The demolishment of the ruined house. Love at its best, wrote Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., is justice concretized. Is in concretize, I hear the word concrete and think of the materials of many Confederate memorials, hard and stone-like. They're supposed to give the impression that they will last, but not even stone lasts. Thank you for being here. The screen is yours.
Thank you, Dustin. You're such an incredible host, and I just feel like I should be taking so many notes because you're so good at it. Thank you so much. And Grant and Allison, it's wonderful to be here with you. I love seeing all of you here. I'm terrified that Carl Phillips is in the audience, and I'm like, maybe it's not Carl Phillips. Maybe literally my breathing. I'm like, maybe it's just a troll who decided they would use the name Carl Phillips so they could be in the audience. Or maybe Carl Phillips is cooking dinner and he cannot hear me, and that would be good. And then I was like, Carl Phillips is here to hear Grant. And Carl Phillips will probably leave before I read. But no, unfortunately, oh my God, it is indeed. So anyways, lovely to see you all. And now my heart rate's up. I loved hearing Grant say that he was going to read new work and fresh work, because I thought for a minute he was going to say like a lot of times we love to read our new work, but what's really exciting is like our old work, or the work that stays. And I was waiting for that shoe to fall, but it didn't. So I was very happy about that. This is my book, Wapakan Light, and it's from Bull City Press, and it has had a quiet existence a little bit. Really, really appreciate readers, and feel really supported by the reading community. But pandemic books, it's been a little bit of a tough time. I went to the C.D. Wright conference in Arkansas this last weekend, and it was a wonderful conference. I think one of the kindest, most non-hierarchical, just kind of genuine. There was no ego strutting. It was very unusual and wonderful. So I would just like to recommend that conference if you are thinking about presenting a paper, or you're interested in particularly Southern poetics, women in queer poetics. And I am going to read a poem from my book. I'm definitely going to do this. One of the things that happened over the weekend is that multiple people read butchering poems. And I think there were two different people read pig poems, and someone read an excerpt from their novel, which was Butchering a Pig. And I texted Amorak and I was like, oh my goodness, the pig poems. And he very sagely said, "You're in Arkansas. What do you expect?" Which, it's true. But it's really interesting because I grew up butchering. I grew up with pigs and chickens and goats and every kind of fowl. And it's weird when you hear someone who clearly hasn't butchered read about it, because there's something, you have a kind of distance, I think, when you've had to do it. Anyways, that's just something I was thinking about a lot. And now there's no way I'm going to be able to find this poem in my book. I literally won't. Oh, well. Okay. Homily on the Hand and Eye. That learned to catch a chicken running, wheeling, headless in the yard, escaped from my brother's butchering hand, that caught its feet and held on until the wings stopped flapping, that dipped it into boiling water, hung its feet on the fence, that plucked the wet feathers down to the pin feathers and the yellow bud of fat below each, to the skin dimpled and bare. The lesson of the broiler chicken is that we are bare. Under feathers, we are all bare. And I think I really love C.D. Wright's work for the kind of just that she was unsmiling. I think I love that about her. I mean, she writes in her essay Hills about being descended from like hill women and being a hillbilly and being a strong-boned, unsmiling woman, and I love that. And there's something very genderqueer, I think, in that too, that I find there. I'm going to read one more poem from here, and then I'm going to read some new things. A visitor says things are rotting in Durham, North Carolina. We are mostly the humidity, our politics, the humidity, the reason we drink on porches, and the labor inequities we watch like deer in the woods, humidity. In the summer, the scent of shade by the house, the hostas growing there, moss between bricks, a dampness of loam and the lip of the water table, our yards dipping beneath it. Mosquitoes singing to their children. Everything at the edge of ponds. Newt and frog eggs, our shoes and sticks. My child hallooing into the depths. His uncle taking him out in the rowboat without asking, without a life jacket. My brother not a sailor. We swam that sullen pond once, in desperate summer. Rose streaming, each hair covered in silt, more dirty than before. I just do not recommend ponds for swimming. Just don't. Can't do that. I think my face is still warm. I love that Amorak put Suey in the chat. Pigs aren't nice animals. There's a poem in What Pecad Light that ends with, we name the pigs Caesar and Pompey, knowing neither of them will survive. And just, I don't know. I just farm with pigs and then decide whether pigs are the most intelligent, wonderful animals in the world. Otherwise, I really think you're going to go with dolphins, but. Okay, so I'm going to read you a few poems, some newer things. I have a manuscript I'm really excited about. It's called Thou Wast Mild and Lovely. And I kind of get more into like erotics, and there's some queer love poems. And I finally am dealing with being in an argument with Robert Frost. And, I think I had like some like, just like resistance to Frost. I was like, I shouldn't love you this much when I was younger. But then the older I get, the more productive arguing with Frost becomes. So these are in that vein. And this one's called Harness. Clasp and buckle on thigh, straps tracing the hips, where eyes and hands want to go. I grew up knowing bit in the mouth, knowing leash, collar, and run, knowing the difference between how you use leather on a horse or a child was gentleness or force. A father's belt pulled from its loops. But now with pleasure, a ring, now triangulation of chest. Hook me in the back. This garment works by covering nothing. Frost said, poetry without form is like playing tennis without the net. But form is God, meaning everywhere, meaning what you can do with a net or netting, with the idea of purpose, use, play. Form and restraint are optics, and a harness is about what cannot be caught, what flies through the net. Use the net to pull the other player closer. Fuck tennis. That's the end of that poem. I was talking to someone's class the other day on Zoom, and I was asked a question about like free verse and playing tennis without the net. And first of all, I said, playing tennis without the net, that sounds like it could be really fun. But also it's such an interesting metaphor. Growing up very rurally, growing up without swimming pools or tennis or like so many things that I would consider like more urban recreation. It's just interesting. It's interesting, that metaphor. I think sitting with it is a fruitful thing. Okay. So, sometimes I just up and read. I think this is like the third time meta reading I've referenced Silken Tint by Robert Frost, which is a love sonnet. And sometimes I read it at a reading because I think it does interesting things to a room. In my queer imagination, it's become more and more of a queer poem. And so sometimes I say, like, I'm gonna read a poem to you by America's like foremost bondage poet. And then and everyone's like who it, and then it's Robert Frost. Which yeah, I mean, there is an argument to be made there, and I think one of us needs to write that essay. So the last two lines from this little sonnet are from Robert Frost's Still Content. So I did not write them. I stole them. This poem's for Bella. My girlfriend shows me how to choke her safely. She pulls my hands to the side of her neck, to the wing beats of her pulse, her chin lifted, eyes soft as a doe's, hair streaming in handfuls down her back, my thumbs in air above her throat. She has bondage ties in her bag and bandanas. I'm unsure I can move my hands this way when asked, unsure I can constrict, but she shows me how, in such a way, I bend to kiss her, hand still circling her neck. I don't know myself, but the bonds of love are tied with cinches. The knots of love are fast. Some of them slip. She is, as in a field, a silken tent. I am of the slightest bondage made aware. Just looking at the time. So, I think it's something about the autumn. There's something about autumn with, I think I've avoided the word for a really long time, but I think it's lust in autumn. So this is just the energy I'm bringing to readings at this point, I think. How good is lust? So, Dustin, is this one poem time or two poem time? Okay, I'll read two poems. Thank you. Thank you for being my timekeeper. Marriage is not a domestic, but untamed and should not work, not once, not ever. Yet your shoulder smooth in the morning, your hair long. Have you ever played the lottery? Asks our child. No, that is why you have never won. But my love child, unplanned, consequence of couch cushions thrown to the floor. I've never otherwise pursued high-risk behaviors, though my cousin died base jumping. Base is an acronym for the objects from which the jumper can fall: buildings, antennae, spans, and earth. I too want to die doing what I love, like the man in a story dying with 100 elephants falling on him mid-orgasm. Love is a risk, riding a risk, breathing, ice melting around us. Our marriage not pure, but 0.02% opium, like the air in another world. We make each other laugh or gasp every week. This week you picked me up and spun me around. Lovers are common, says a character in a novel. Either I disagree, or marriage has her cool marble fingers around my neck, thumbs on my throat, lifelike as a Bernini. Okay. And I'll close with one more poem. I literally still feel so pink. That's what happened to you. Blush hard. Okay. Biblical. My period, 3 days. A 40-day depression in spring. Another 40-day depression in summer. 7 days to make what? My harlot feelings in autumn. Dressing in reds and animal skin. How I want to be kissed on the neck. The bed scented with cinnamon, branches of hyssop. Lord, what I could do with a cock. It's Peter-esque, my lust for you, standing by the side of the road, veiled, this scarlet cord, this young goat, my desire deep as a well with a brother in it. The poems I write, the weeping on the bed, the dancing in the morning, how every 7 seconds I crave jubilee. Release the prisoners, the debts, the fields, the way I write God out with a dash. The two brothers always in my life, warring, my sister, the priest, my dreams, apocrypha, tongues translated into more tongues, the whale belly of my anxiety, jellyfish and seaweed hanging from my ears, that the heart does not ask permission, the apple bite, the skin against my teeth, the hunger for more apple. Thanks.
Thank you so much for that. Before I introduce our final reader of the evening, just want to give that friendly reminder. You can go to the wildandpreciouslifeseries.com to find us on all the social media. We're on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, all of them. So please follow us, the Wild and Precious Life. Don't want any of your money. I just want you to give us a shout out on social media. So if you are enjoying tonight, you enjoy the series, the best way to promote it is through some social media shout outs, and that's appreciated. Whatever you calendar in, if you use your phone, if you use Google, if you like to be old school and use a day planner, I would love for you to mark March 27th, 2024 for the Wild and Precious Life series. That will be our 4-year celebration. And it's actually, through design, our 100th reading of the series. So 4 years and 100 readings. It's going to be a round robin of a shit ton of people reading, up to 2 or 3 minutes. So I hope you will put March 27th on your calendar and celebrate with us 4 years of existence. Our final reader of the evening is Allison Blevins. I mean, I could talk about Allison for quite a long time. She really is just a kind, lovely, inspiring human being. I've had the pleasure of working with her because she runs Harbor Editions. And I'm not just saying this because she's published my books. It's because she's published my books that I've gotten to know these things about her and have been very fortunate to work close with her. And the care and attention and love that she gives every person that's in her press is just amazing and inspiring. And I'm thrilled to call her friend. And, you know, I harass her with memes sometimes. Hopefully I'm making her laugh. So, Allison, I'm so glad that you're here tonight. So I am going to read part of an interview. It was a very good discussion as an Android journal. I'm only going to read the very small question, but there's a lot of other discussion happening, and then get into what you said that really struck me. So then what do we do with language or with the body, especially to name and diagnose and mourn the body? And again, this was part of a very large discussion, so I encourage people to go to the Adric Journal and look at this. And this is what Allison had to say. Every part of what you said swirls around me as I move through the world. Language is central to my process of healing from illness, depression, and trauma. Chronic illness is chronic. The word is mysterious. For most people, healing means an end to pain or illness, but I've had to work to understand chronic in my mind, but mostly in my legs. The word isn't enough to explain how it feels to have pain endure as an almost separate entity, to be forced to endure pain that was before unimaginable. My work in many ways is this grappling with language made physical on the page. There's an intersection here with my queer identity, coming out as chronic. I was thinking about these ideas of language and identity when I wrote the book. Cataloging pain juxtaposes my husband's transition with my disability because it became clear in day-to-day living how similar our experiences were. We were both struggling with a language that is ill-equipped to describe our experiences, and we were both learning to live in changing bodies, learning to navigate the world in new bodies. In Pain as Caged Birds, I write, my husband is leaving behind his body captor. I'm every day entering the body that will cage me in the memory of a body without pain. You say language can't give us answers about the body, and I think that drives me, and maybe all writers, to put words down. Aren't we all just weeping for this loss? We need answers. Thank you for being here tonight. The screen is yours.
Goodness, it sounds smart when you say it. I don't even remember writing it now. When you read it, it sounds so much better. Thank you, Dustin, so much for that introduction and your friendship and your writing and everything that you give to the writing community. You're just a blessing to it seems like such a cliche, but it really is true to me and to so many people. And thank you for the readers and audience, and of course must echo the Carl Phillips of it all. So I'm going to start with Cataloging Pain. This book came out in April with Yes Yes Books, and also has had a bit of a slow go. The book is a hybrid, so there's lyric essays mixed with poems, and this is the last piece in the book, and I kind of call it my joy piece, and it may be hard for folks to find that in it, but for me it is. It's a lyric essay, so it'll go on, and just remember it's an essay, and that's why it's doing that. Cataloging pain as non-narcotic pain reliever. My children beg to be loved with cartwheels and screams. I read once about microchimeric cells. No, I still carry the children inside me. My mother lives in me too, a silent, slow swimmer. I know I'll still belong to them when I can't remember how I shit as I push my children from my body. I'm wearing my old maternity clothes around the house. So brave, they'll say at my funeral. If I can do this well, this slow death from disease and medication, I'll finally be lovable. My therapist calls this a martyr complex. Someone must witness the chrysalis, the knife, how it burns to expand and dry and shake in the shell, I tell her. Interesting, she says. My face has aged and tired, so I open my eyeshadow palette. Pigment dust poofs into the white subway tile bathroom. The smell reminds me of my mother. I can love the eye bags darkened even more by the overhead light and leave well enough alone. In the sun-shadowed yard, my baby's fingers brush and splash in the grass. She speaks mostly gibberish now. My husband reads the newspaper. The older children read on swings. I think I'm writing a love letter to them, to us, to the words we fit together, to my body turning slowly to floating light. I hold hands with my son on our sofa. My daughter brings ice packs. The whole family holds me after a fall. You might not see it, but this is beautiful. We teach our children to dial 911. They memorize our address. They will understand how to give to another body in need of a body pressed tight to the skin. A new specialist asks if I take any medications. I laugh, hand her a list a page long. Remember when my answer was multivitamin? After the exam, the doctor and nurse huddle behind a computer to find a medication that won't kill me, settle on one with the side effect of making my Xanax stronger. I'll take it. I try to act concerned, serious. Our baby's scream flies into our bed at 5 in the morning. I don't wake enough to hold her, change her diaper. She settles into the nacre of our bodies, spooned face to face and knee to knee. In a fog, I move to adjust blankets, and my husband's hand grabs mine in the dark. Rough, warm, he covers me in the dark. Some nights, our bodies still bend into negative space left to fill by our curving flesh. Our bodies whisper vows again and again, your mouth on my ear like our first drenched I love you. I want you inside me, your hand on mine. Each of my children fed from my breasts, wrapped their tight hands tight around my index finger as they tippled and dozed on my belly. This is the tide I feel, not the electric pain of information pulsing over battered nerves, pain that bands my legs and chest. The memory of my children squeezes me. I like to use both feet to cover our standing shower's drain. Watch the fiberglass basin fill and fill. I imagine water filling our bathroom. This water is beautiful and safe as blue sunlight. My husband and children swim with me, strange aquatic mammals. I'm going to read from this. This is Fiery Poppies Bruising Their Own Throats. And this is my 5th chapbook, and it came out last month. And from Glasslier Press, and we haven't really had been able to have a reading from it. It's my 2nd collaborative book with the poet Josh Davis, and this is also a hybrid, so it mixes poems with these letters that we've wrote back and forth to each other. I'm going to read some of the poems first. My mother's unfinished canvases, a triptych. 1. An octopus cradles, paper clips, a peasant blouse, 1 tarot card, 3 camel lights, a shattered flute, lavender lotion, black nail polish, a goldfish in its plastic balloon. The goldfish is unsurprised. 2. The elder of the 2 lacks a face. She tests her wingspan. The tree, if it is a tree, recedes into droplets of smolder. 3. A blue dot surrounded by cream and emptiness. Blue waits for a dark-haired child, waits for morning like a telegram, dashes and dots carried in a leather and horsehair handbag. Eyes in the backs of our hands. We wear them like opals that blink, like atlas moths, but they stare always. We call the eyes blue, impatient water, but really, this is the color of kindness passing us in the night unseen. Some things are worse than loss. How radio static blares from our open mouths, those nights we never came, though we pressed and pressed our thighs. Loss is always its own favorite sister. Hard to read from a book you've never read from before because you kind of don't know what your shtick is yet. Let's see. Okay. I'm gonna do one more poem. Okay, it's a short one. Argument who waits in our stairwell. Smaller now, shriveled by age, she might fit in my hand if I dared. The argument, hairless and lumpen, should be swept down the stairs, out the door. I might pick up the unraveled, lingering bits with a small, damp cloth. Much of all love is a burden. And I'm going to read just one of the letters, and it's one of mine to Josh, but we work on all of the pieces together, so no piece is just written by one of us. Josh, I told you I'm not writing, yet you wait and wait and wait. Patient as a blank Mad Lib, patient as yellow, patient as your letters calling to me from Ohio, from Florida. Am I meant to save both of us? This sounds like an accusation, and I suppose it is. That is female work, isn't it? I'm furious. You are not the cause, yet here we are. I want violence, the blood of knuckles on a nose. I've only shot a gun once in my life. I can't do it again. But these long days, I like to imagine punching someone, imagine cheek and jawbone tough and tight under my knuckles. I like to imagine I'm the type of person who could do what needed to be done. And since we're reading new things, I thought, what the heck? So I have a very strange little book coming out about this time next year with Persea, and well, I'll just read some of it. It's a very strange little thing. It's called the book's called Where Will We Live If the House Burns Down, and it's just one long piece. I'm just going to read two of them. Grim often finds herself lost in the basin, as if a void or whirling cosmos has opened in her bathroom. It's the water, how in rushing and rushing across her hands, how rushing isn't the right word, but the sound of rush, as in gush, as in sloosh. How sound reverberates in both eardrums, and her legs feel drips and fire. She is gone. I can't say where. Her body remains. This loss lasts only seconds because there are the children, always the children, touching her legs and hair and arms. The sergeant won't eat ice cream from the pint after it's been opened, scooped, placed back in the freezer, only untouched, only smooth and unblemished. Come on, we all think this is a metaphor. I patch Grim together like an exquisite corpse, blinking eyes on her breasts and labia and knees. Grim is badly drawn. Grim is always blinking, sleepy. I can't compose the sergeant. I try, I want. I fold and fold and fold. The page always white when I unfold and flatten the white against the table. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. I hope that you will return on December 6th. That will be our final reading of the year. And then we're going to kick back off in January. We have 2 readings. in January. Sometimes I like to do that. I like to spice things up instead of one reading. Fuck it, have two. Why not? So I hope you will come back in January. And again, I'm going to plug that date in March. Please put it in your calendar as March 27th. 4 years of existence, our 100th evening of the Wild and Precious Life series. So I hope you'll come to all of these, but I really want to see you there on the 27th. Everyone, the holidays are coming up. Please mask up, be safe so we all don't have a surge and are miserable because of the holidays. So take care of yourself and take care of each other. See you next time. Have a good night, everybody.